Hello, welcome back to All For United WFC. Yeah, we're a little bit late. We're always a little bit late, but we're even later than later than usual. Because this week, trying to pick a player of the match or trying to pick 4 names to put on a player of the match, we were struggling on 2, let alone 4. But as I said, we were always trying to get 4 names on a poll. So there is 4 names on the poll. Take your pick. This week, I think it's going to be a real struggle to make a case for any of them from a player of the match point of view. But there are 4 names on there: Riviere, Mallard, Blundell, and Sigotti. It's quite close. Mallard is in the lead now, but it's close with the rest of them. So yeah, get your votes in. We'll come back to that towards the end. This is going to be not a great kind of show. This is it. But yeah, as always, we'll go through all the talking points from Saturdays. I've put humiliation in the title because that's genuinely what I believe it felt like in terms of the game. But there we go. I'm not going to go around the panel asking how everyone is, because I think we all know how everyone is feeling and all those kind of things. Oh, God, Sean's already in the chat. Sean messaged me about 20 minutes ago being like, I'm really looking forward to this. I was like, I'm not. So, something slightly different. But yeah, hello to everyone in the chat. All your comments will be welcome throughout this show to drag us through, that's for sure. Right, I'm just going to dive in with the first question as I always do. The lineup, there was obviously a few changes. There was 4 in total. Janssen came in, obviously was suspended midweek. Turlin came in, Toon came in, and Galton came in on the left for her first. I think that's her first start, isn't it, of the season so far. Changes on the show on the PSG one. I actually said I wanted Galton in the team, so I was relatively happy with that. And I think Turlin and Toon were always going to come back in because that's just what we seem to do. It's an open question, really, because that's kind of how we're going to do this show. It's kind of an open question to anyone who wants to take it. Is there any changes people would have made when the lineup came out? Were you happy with that? Would you have done something? Would you have kept it similar to Wednesday night? What would you have done there? Obviously, there was no Fallon, so Saf stayed in goal. But in the outfield players, is there anything anyone else would have changed to that 11?
I kind of said this the other day after the PSG one. And maybe it's wrong of me to say in a way, I don't know, but I wouldn't have started Toon. Because of the fact that, obviously, I think Skinner said she had a niggle, which is why she didn't start in the PSG game. But also, she can come on with a bit more force. Now I am aware that's not something we can really say within this game. However, I feel like maybe if we'd have done that, she might have brought a bit, I know we'll probably go into it later, but a bit more like how Mallard was into the game then. And yeah, I just think maybe that could have been something that we could have brought from the PSG game forward.
Yeah, and Skinner did say, I'm sure he did in the press conference, that Toon was scanned before the PSG game for a slight knock, which is why she didn't start that game. And obviously then said that she was fit and healthy for this one, which is why she then started, I assume. But yeah, Barry, Jess, have you got anything on the lineup itself, or should we just go straight into the game in terms of talk about what happened there?
I was fine with the lineup, to be honest. I think there was such a big shift put in on Wednesday that I was actually happy to see some rotation, to be honest, based on Wednesday, just because I thought players needed a break. And the reality of the lineup that we had should have been more than enough to at least compete with City. I felt like there was no competition even there, but the players that starting 11 should have been more than enough. But I can understand why players were rested from Wednesday.
I tell you now, I've written that song down. I ain't heard that for ages, but that is definitely going on. Hopefully, in the little half time between this and the WOFO show. But what a tune that is! That's well reminded. That's definitely coming out. As far as the team goes, Connor, I've said it 1,000,001 times. No problems with it. The squad that we put out are capable of winning these games. All of them. That's clear and obvious. So you wouldn't even need VAR for it. So no dramas that whatsoever.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I wasn't. Obviously, I'd like to have seen Fallon. Of course, we all would have, but we know that wasn't going to be the case. But from the outfield point of view, I think the only one I agree with is I maybe would have kept Simeon for Toon at the time. But the rest of them, the question I do have in terms of the 11 is exactly what Jay just said, and this is the first thing I said to someone outside the ground. Those two, Turland and Mallard, started the season so well together. It was Mallard off the left, Turland down the middle. Now, don't get me wrong, I think Mallard this season has done very well down the middle. She leads the line very well. I said that against PSG and everything else. But I actually tweeted this after the game. That one of my big takeaways is I don't think Turland suits how we're playing anymore, which is why we're not seeing the best of it. She actually only had 6 touches in that 45 minutes in the game, that whole first half. which showed you how anonymous she was in that first half. And I think a big problem with that is we don't play to her strengths anymore. The rest of the team have changed, and it doesn't really suit her. She was doing well when Mallard was there. Now she's been playing alongside what you would probably say are more natural left-sided wingers, Rolfo and Galton, who like to get to the byline and so on. And I don't think it's helping her. I don't know why we've stopped playing those two together, because I actually thought it started the season quite well, but that's something I'm sure we'll get into when we talk about the lack of chances throughout the game, because 0 shots on target. I don't quite know how to phrase this, because the first half as a whole, I can't lie to you. I think I was still with Jess at the game, and I think I said after like 2 minutes we're going to get battered, because City I think they hit the post inside like the first couple of minutes. Like they had a couple of chances to flash across the box as well, and it was just like, yeah, they're going to score. I think I actually tweeted at some point that a goal felt inevitable. Like they were just battering us from the off. Why do we think? I think that's a general question. Before we get into the goals, we'll do them goal by goal. Why do we think that first half was? I'm going to call it a disaster, because I don't actually think we laid a glove on them, and it just felt like they were just pounding us, and we were just almost like waiting. It felt inevitable to me that City were going to score at some point. Why do we think that was, in terms of that first half in particular, and not stopping anything that City were throwing at us? So who wants to kick us off with that? I know it's going to be a hard question to answer as well, with excluding the goals.
I don't know that I necessarily felt the same as you, Connor, initially at the beginning. I think you get these moments. At the end of the day, we're at the Etihad. It's City's home ground. You're going to expect them to come out of the traps incredibly fast, and they did. That's to be expected. And I think any manager worth their salt would have expected that and told look, just try and stem the tide first 5-10 minutes, calm them down, get the crowd out of the game, and then come into it a bit more. And I think we kind of did that. We did get ourselves forward a little bit. We're just not creating. So I think once the first goal came in, it obviously became a bit of a drama. But I don't know. I don't know that I felt that immediately that we were necessarily going to get tonked. Because I know that we've got a good defence, and our defence has stood up against Chelsea. Our defence has stood up against European teams and Arsenal. So I did not expect this. I didn't expect us to lose by 3 goals. So I don't know that I felt that way watching it. Again, maybe people see games differently and those sorts of things. Maybe it's just my optimistic side staying in there that we'll probably nick one and do that. But no, I don't say I felt that immediately, but certainly after a couple of goals, it was certainly starting to look like I might as well just turn it off and stick my head in the microwave. I didn't, because you can't shut the door.
No, all I was going to say to that was that I can see both sides of what you're saying, and I feel diplomatic when I say these things, but I feel like sometimes I'll go in like instantly thinking like Connor, like how you thought there, but then I'll think about it a bit more and get what you're saying, Barry. So I think part of the reason it happened this way, and it happens sometimes, is that when we're slow to start, certain teams, like, let's be honest, City will punish us if we're going to be slow to start and get our rhythm into the game. And I just wonder if, because we did have a few changes from the PSG game, which understandably, because we would have been tired, I just wonder if that like rhythm was gone a little bit, and whether, that, I want to say camaraderie from it, I guess, wasn't quite there in that way. And yeah, I do just wonder if it's that. It did feel a little bit like it was inevitable, like you said, Connor. But also, by the end of the second half, it just felt like it was 5-10 minutes that completely cost us the whole game. And we can't allow that to happen. And I'm not just saying we need to sit back in that way, because obviously we seem to not be able to even score on... shoot on target at the minute, but I do just wonder if it's that lack of concentration for a little period of time that's creating all these problems as well, that we're just not able to then, like, I don't know, work from in a way.
I think I'm more with Connor. I'll be completely honest, before the game even started, I just had a bad feeling. I think they'd worked so hard on Wednesday that I really did. It was Wednesday, wasn't it? Yeah, Wednesday. That I really was thinking like, oh, they've had like less than 3 full days here recovery. And I felt similar, not quite as extreme, but similar to how I felt when I went to Old Trafford after we'd won the FA Cup against Chelsea, when you just feel like it's going to go badly. And I don't know what actually gave me that impression, but it turned out to be kind of correct. It was hard to pinpoint exactly what went wrong. I think it was just across the whole field. We were just, I think, to be honest, we were just outclassed in like every single position, to be honest. It wasn't a case of, oh, this one player made loads of mistakes, or, oh, Saf cost us that game, she should have saved them all, because I don't think she should. Sorry, that's my laptop beeping constantly. Let me try and mute it. So I can't pinpoint one thing, because it was just a combination of lots of things. And I do think a lot of the issue was having such a quick turnaround from the Champions League game. And like I said before, that it wasn't just a random game. Like, the girls put in so much effort, like mentally, physically, all the preparation would have been for that game. And that's a lot. Now, do I think we should have still done better? Yes, of course. But I do think that potentially like that didn't really help us. It was just disappointing, to be honest. I looked like we didn't really want it. There was no kind of competing. I felt like we were easily muscled off the ball. We were like second to everything. We were terrible kind of defending loose second balls. And I think the only bright side is we didn't concede any in the second half, to be honest.
That's the big one, because I remember, obviously, we were all stood together at half time, and I remember, to be fair, for anyone who was in the concourse, by the way, especially near block 016, I don't know what was going on with the disco theme thing they had going on with like the loud music, and it looked like a dance floor area near where the bar was. I don't know what all that was about. But then, like, the countdown to the second half, I remember we were all just looking at that on the TVs, just thinking, like, yeah, let's. I just hope. I think I actually said it to a lot of people. Just like, I just hope we don't get like battered here, like, because at halftime 3-0, I'm thinking, yeah, this is going to be anything. If we come out in the second half, anything like that. And James did say that, to be fair, on the last show, about having a hangover from the PSG game, and obviously Gareth as well, kind of saying that as well. It was always going to be tough. I think I actually said to all on the show that we did the other day, because I didn't ever think we were going to go there and win. I just didn't think we were going to get beaten as we did. I know that argument, we didn't concede in the second half, and granted we didn't, but let's be real, we didn't exactly cause many issues going the other way. And barring a good save from Saf, it's 4-0 in the second half as well, when Bunny Shaw's going through on goal as well. So yeah, not great from that point of view. Right, let's move on to the goals then. Let's try and break these down a little bit. I don't want to spend ages on each one, because we could be here all day. The first one's obviously a set piece, and something I'm sick of saying this every week. It's almost like we're going to concede goals on this all the time until we fix these issues. Who wants to kick us off on the first goal? We'll do it. We've got 3 goals, so one of you is starting first each time. So whoever will start first this one won't start first on the next 2. Yeah, it's obviously a set piece. It's a second ball again, where Bunny Shaw kind of nods it across goal, and kind of obviously Rebecca Naki's up against, I think it's Riviere. Riviere's not winning that. And it's a decent header. It's into the corner. I don't think Saf's reaching that anyway. I don't think Fallon's reaching that, to be honest. It's right into the corner. Yeah, I feel like we're having this conversation every week, particularly about set pieces, and particularly about not winning the second ball. Everyone's so keen to talk about the goals.
Sorry, I was just making sure I was having my same problem as last week when my iPad just decided to fall again. So that's why I was a bit panicked then. With that one, Rebecca Knox, when she's going to head a ball like that, it's going to go in, but it's defending them. And I understand that when you look at our team on Saturday in that way, we were quite a short team, and I'm not making excuses for that. We need to be able to pick up the height somehow of these defenders. But it's just crazy that we're even playing teams without playing as a team without height, and we just weren't forceful enough, and we weren't strong enough. And I feel like in the past I've said we've been strong in other ways, like physically strong in that way, but when it comes to defending these set pieces, I don't know if it was at that point, I think it was, I turned around to my dad and I just said, we need a new set piece coach, because I think I just had enough of them at that point.
I think as well, my understanding is that Ian Wilcott was the set piece coach anyway. Obviously, was the goalkeeper coach, but he was in charge as well of the set pieces. Obviously, he went. So whether there's something in that, I don't know. I genuinely don't know who is doing them now. We will have somebody. Whether it is the new goalkeeping coach that's taken that on, I don't know. But I do think there might be some correlation in that. The fact that we look so poor from defending set pieces after he's gone, there might be something in that as well.
I don't know that we looked good last season at set pieces, Connor. I think set pieces have been our downfall many a time in our defending. Do you know, people are talking about you can't put a small person on a tall person, and you can't. You can't. You know, I get this. As a small person, certified and official, it's a nightmare when you get put on somebody who is incredibly tall, which for me is most people. I once had to be a right back against a player who was almost as tall as your quiff, and it was horrific. It was horrific because it didn't matter how high I jumped, I wasn't going to do anything. So you kind of end up putting your weight in there. The difference is I was just an amateur fat lad. These aren't. These are professionals. I don't see them jump. And for me, I can forgive most things if I see a bit of effort, but they're not. They're just sort of trying to hold, get in the way, obstruct, but nobody jumps. So City win the headers because they're jumping. And for me, that's the bit that's frustrating. You've got to at least try. You've got to jump. And if you try and get something on the ball, and I think for all three of these goals that we talk about, the big thing we're going to be mentioning here is just that application of trying to get to the ball, that desire to want to get something onto the ball. You think about earlier on in the season, you get people high-fiving when we're doing things well defensively. You couldn't high-five anyone today. It was horrific. Horrible. Like I can't sit here and be nice about this performance. I was angry after the game, and I was angry because the bare minimum is that you put everything on. And I want to know if they're not jumping because they're being told, just try and obstruct, just try and get in the way, make it difficult for people. Well, didn't work, did it? There was loads of people there that could have jumped and got in the way. Nobody did. So you can talk about short and tall, but I'll tell you one thing, you're not winning a header if you're short and you stay stood still. No chance. They're just going to lean on you and score a goal. So they can have that one for free. They don't need a set piece coordinator for that. Just jump.
Yes, I agree with Barry. As another certified small gal, I unfortunately have found myself marking giant women. And you know that if it is coming down to it, like, you're not winning that ball. That's the reality. But I would always jump. I would throw my head anywhere. That's probably why I'm a bit mental, to be honest. Because I would just stick my head anywhere. Like, I'm 5'2". I once beat a keeper to head a ball and score a goal. Like, can you actually fathom that? That is incredible. I don't know how I did that. I think Cristiano Ronaldo must have taken over my body and given me that kind of jump that he has. Because she had hands and could have punched it. I'm pretty sure we were in the box. Anyway, I feel like I'm segueing. I have just watched the first two goals back because I'd purposely erased them from my mind, to be honest. But I have just watched them back, and a calamity is all I can say. I think it's one thing, not, if you don't get the first ball, you've got to get the second ball. And that is, I said it before, that is where our trouble lies. Because if we don't clear a corner or any set piece on the first attempt, it's coming back in and it's going straight to one of their players again. So any set piece, a team essentially has like 2 or 3 attempts on it, because we just, for some reason, are incapable of kind of successfully defending. And on both the ball in and then the second kind of header across the box, there just wasn't enough competition for the ball. Like, you have got to want it. You have got to want to, whoever is there, you have got to want to like smash through them to get the ball. Like, not caring if you're going to get a bump on the head or anything, you've got to just get that ball. That is your only goal. Whereas they just, like Barry said, they do seem to more just be wanting to kind of like be a little bit of an inconvenience to the players. But when you're coming up against like Bunny Shaw and players like that, you kind of tussling into them a little bit, it's not enough. You know, she is absolutely jacked. She's not going to notice if you're kind of barging into her a little bit. She is such an impressive athlete. Like, you've got to at least compete and kind of give her, even if it's just a split second of doubt that makes her think, oh, I might not get this ball. I've got a bit of competition here. Just that could be the difference between a perfectly positioned ball back into the box and either our player winning it or even just going somewhere that it's not supposed to. I think that is the difference. And I think until that kind of defensive setup gets fixed, it's just not going to work. But this should be kind of basics. You know, even at my like low level of playing, it was always you went up against someone who was similar height and kind of similar stature, let's say, to you. So the reality is, typically I wouldn't be put up against like a 6 foot absolutely jacked girl. And I don't know whether it's just the absolute basics that we're failing at or what. But every time they had the ball, they put so many crosses in. They could have had so many more goals if they just had a little bit more luck in certain instances, if they just had a player in the box at the right time, which was essentially what I think it was Shaw did for the second goal. They had so many balls in like that. And we kind of just let them get away with it.
I think as well, I was literally just watching the goal back as you were saying there. So Andrew made the comment earlier on, Galton is actually is on the back post where obviously the ball ends up going. She goes towards the ball and it looks like it's Turland who Bunny Shaw just completely throws to the floor almost, kind of muscles her out of the way. And as I said, it was obviously Riviere that ends up on Rebecca Knack anyway. I wouldn't be bringing this up if we weren't conceding. Like Skinner said, I think after the game, which it's unlike us. I don't know what games he's been watching this season, but we're almost like conceding a goal from a set piece every game at this point. So I don't know about unlike us because it's very like us. And it's not just on set piece. Obviously, this one was a set piece, but when we come to the third goal, and you hear my thoughts on that. Again, the second ball's not closing them down, which I'm sure we'll come to in a second. Right, Barry, I'm going to come to you first for the second goal. This, to me, is just showing how far behind the play we were. I think Miyazawa and Sandberg are 5-10 yards off the pace. And then the cross comes in, and then I think Saf is 5 yards off the pace as well because completely misjudges the cross. And Bunny Shaw's got probably the easiest goal she scored in her career. But what do you put it down to, I think, is the bigger question. Because this was just before half-time as well. I know there's another one that comes a few minutes later. But just before half-time, and for me, we switched off everywhere.
Yes. Look, I think you're going to get different reactions from different people all the way throughout the fan base because that's how things happen. I can see in the comments there's some people talking about it being a bit too negative and not being supportive. I don't think anyone can look at this channel and say that we've not been supportive of the girls over the course of the last 6 or 7 years. I think if you are ever going to find a group of people that will support people beyond their sell-by date sometimes, I mean, look, we're still supporting Skinner. I don't think we can have that. But it doesn't mean we're going to sit here and be positive about absolutely everything, especially when it doesn't rate it. And having said that, there's been a lot of people, naturally, that have decided they're going to have a go at Saf for not being tall enough or this, that, or the other. Now, on the one hand, what I do have to say is I've got a lot more, tolerance for mistakes from young people than I do from the people that are supposed to be playing week in, week out. Nobody expected Saf to need to be our number one at any point this season. And I don't think it's particularly helpful if on the one hand people want to sit there and go, well, we've got 2 goalkeepers on the bench, we won't play any of our youngsters, he never plays any of the youngsters, why doesn't he play the youngsters? Oh, Mark Skinner, you're a nightmare. And then he does play a youngster. Well, why are we playing Saf and not Kayla? It just goes to show that sometimes you're just not happy because they're not playing the person you want them to play. It's got nothing to do with the argument that you're trying to come up with. You're just trying to be cool and get in there with what everybody else has got to say. The simple fact is that I think Saf is a Welsh international. You know, when Kayla's knocking on the door of being the England number 1, maybe come and have a chat to me then. You know, she's knocking on the door of the Welsh international squad. So I don't have a go at her for that. Now, having said that, was it a good piece of goalkeeping? No, it wasn't. She doesn't need me to tell her that. Quite clearly, she needed to come out at a different angle if she was hoping to intercept that ball, because the only way she was getting that ball is if it evades Bunny Shaw. But evading Bunny Shaw is not an easy thing to do with a football because that woman is rapid. So I think I would argue that maybe Dominic Janssen could have potentially launched herself at the ball if we're talking last minute defensive sort of stuff. But let's be honest, we would have been asking her to, you know, literally be like a kamikaze at that point. She could have ended up anywhere if she chose to do that. Other than that, it's just a bloody good ball, Connor. Like, sometimes you do just have to sit there and go, all right, fair play. And it was a really good ball. And again, Bunny gets there first. As far as Saf goes, does she make an error? Yes. She probably could have done a bit better, but she's got that long to think about where she's going to run. And if she gets it wrong, she gets it wrong. So the second goal, as much as some people might call it avoidable, of all of the 3 goals, it's actually one that I had to sit there and go, all right, fair enough. That was quite a good goal. But I do also have to, every time Jess uses the word jacked, I keep thinking of a kangaroo. You know, like when they stand up and they're just like, ooh, have some of that. And that's all I've seen every time you've mentioned Jack now. So I can see sort of kangaroos just all over the pitch.
That's quite a sight from that one. That's not where I thought we'd be going with that. Jess, I'll come to you next, and then Beth will follow in straight away on the second goal.
I've just watched it back like a bunch of times, and I think it's so easy to blame the keeper all the time. It's so easy. But, like, what about before that? How the hell is, what's her name, Rose? How does she get where she gets to? She shrugs off Miyazawa like she ain't even there. Like, I know Hinny is not the most jacked, and I would never expect her to compete physically like that. But it's like she didn't even, it's like she wasn't there. It's like she was a ghost. Like, her impact in that bit of play was nearly negative levels. Looking at it as well, then there's this huge open space. Zagotti could potentially move into it, but she kind of gets fooled and takes a couple of steps back. So then she's off the pace. I think you could argue that Janssen's keeping, there's the defensive line, and then there's Janssen, like here. So Janssen's actually keeping Bunny Shaw onside. And who is it that puts the ball in? Was it Kasparai or? It actually looks like when the ball is played through, I think Janssen's probably keeping Kasparai onside at that point because she is not in line with defence. So before it's even got to towards Saf, that is 3 players that you could argue didn't make enough of an impact or didn't quite do their jobs. That's not me saying that it is individually their faults. I'm just making the point that there were maybe 4 or 5 people that didn't quite do what they were supposed to do, including Saf in that. So I don't think it's fair to just say keeper should have done better there, because it shouldn't have ever got that far. The amount of space that City had to play the ball forward was criminal. They had so much time, so much space. Like, Jade Rose must have been in absolute shock when she looked up, brushed past Hinny like she wasn't there, and realised that she had so much space in front of her. Like, our entire team made that goal for City by just not being in position, essentially. You know, with one simple pass, Rose had taken out kind of half our players. So I just don't think it's fair blaming staff, because yes, she could have done better, but like I said, 4 other players probably could have there. And I think if everyone does their jobs a little bit better starting at Hinny, that goal doesn't happen.
Yeah, literally to agree with everything you both said there. There was a lot of, I don't know how to put it, but like a lot of every time staff wasn't quite getting there, or the lack of confidence of fans to staff, which I didn't appreciate. And I was just sat there going, she's 21. This is her. Sorry, let me do my maths. I'll just pause for a minute. This is her 3rd start for United. It's a massive game for her to deal with, and the amount of blame that was put on her, it just, again, I know I've said it a few times now, I do have a soft spot for her, as I do go and watch Wales when I can, but it comes down to the only way you're going to learn in these situations is to be put in them. And yes, it's unfortunate the timing that Fallon's been injured, but it's happened. We can't do anything about that. It has literally come at like almost the most unfortunate. I know we're lucky in a way that we've got the international break for a couple of weeks as well, but we've had all these big games happening at the same time. So it can't just be, put on her. And I mean that for this goal, and I mean it for all 3. I mean it for the game. Now, at the same time, you've then got the argument of Miyazawa. And I just remember being like, oh my God, like in that moment, you kind of knew. And again, not to put the blame on her, where's everyone else to trap back in those situations? There was no backup, really. It felt, even just throughout the game, that if someone didn't quite get there, there'd be another person ready, which I've felt in the past we've had that backup in some way, and it just didn't feel like we had that in that cohesion. And I understand everyone's legs, like they were just tired, they were knackered, and we can say what we want about it, and we can complain all we want, but it was just the lack of recovery time and training time between the 2 games has really done it for us, and it is the squad depth that we've been questioning for the whole season. So I think this whole, it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault, it doesn't come down to that. It's just, I don't say luck of the draw, because I feel like I'm making not fun of it, but making it lighter than it is. But it is the idea that if we had a bit more, I don't know, like we're able to actually prove more of a point in that way and have more players to play with in that way, we would be able to have more speed or depth or strength within the team when we've got these games that are literally 3 days apart.
Yeah, I don't disagree with a lot of what you guys are saying. I think just rewatching the goal back, so Jay Rose makes the run from centre back. She gets the ball off the keeper and runs from pretty much her own 18-yard box all the way through to inside her own final third, and then plays the pass off. Hinny should not be the one that's pressing her for a start. Turland and Toon are closer to Jade Rose than Hinny is. Hinny then runs from midfield to close her down. Galton's kind of stood in no man's land, and then gets past Hinny, and Galton just looks around like, oh, well, she's passed me as well now. As Jess was saying, takes half our team out of the game. And because Sandberg, to me, just looks shattered all game, to be honest, is then not watching where Kasparai is, and she's 5-10 yards off her. It's just so easy. So, yes, while I do stand by, I think Saf's made an error in goal. How on earth has Jade Rose got all the way from her own 18 yards into her own final third, then played the pass, and not having anyone there? And I think a big problem with this, it's something I've been worried this has been coming for a while, and it's not an excuse, I don't think, to say that the team looks shattered, but I think at the start of the season we were closing these situations down faster. Tooney or Turner were pressing that a lot faster. Hinny and Zagotti were covering the ground in midfield so much more than they are and have been in the last week or so. And I think it's catching up to us now. I think some of these players are starting to feel it. So they're not covering the ground because they're not pressing as much, which is then putting more pressure on our back line that maybe we didn't see because it was being covered by the midfield and the forwards pushing up higher up.
We don't know that because they're tired.
It looks it to me. If it's not tired, then it's lack of effort, and I don't want to believe it's that.
I'm not suggesting it's that either. Could they have been told that they didn't want them to press this particular game?
Well, that worries me as well if it's that.
Well, that would worry me as well, absolutely. But I'm just saying, everybody's saying they're tired. I'm not being funny. They shouldn't be that tired. They shouldn't be, not at this point in the season. I know that they've had to play a lot of games. I just don't think they should be. So, I don't know.
I think some of them should. with the amount of games in internationals, some of them getting back to camp late and then playing like Miyazawa, for example, played pretty much every minute and then went away with Japan, played every minute again pretty much. Like players like that, 100%. Some of these players that are on the bench and haven't played all the time, no. I agree with you there. But some of these that are playing all the time, and I have more sympathy for our fullbacks, Jade and Anna, to be honest, because they are playing pretty much all the time.
Yes.
And they've got to be forward every time. They've got to be back every time. Those two look dead on their feet, to be honest, at the weekend. And yeah, we're going to get to Wolfsburg later on the show. But yeah, and Gareth's right. You know, we spoke about like last season when we beat them there. It was us forcing them into errors because we were putting their backline under pressure. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a different team this season, City, and obviously with us as well. But I'd go back to this season, Chelsea and Arsenal, we were pushing them back because we had the energy to do it, in my opinion. And whether this was, as Barry said, whether this was instructed, whether it was tiredness, I don't know. I'm putting it down to tiredness purely because of the amount of games we're playing. And it just looks like we just don't have it in us at the minute.
But I'm sorry, I'm going to throw it back out there again because they were saying this and it made me giggle when they were doing the commentary. So they're going, yeah, you know, when they're playing on the midweek now, they've got more than one competition to play from. Like, has nobody heard of the Sandwich Cup? We played that every single season and they're played at the same times as the Champions League games. Hence why we're not allowed to play on it. So it's utter balderdash that we don't play that many games. We've just replaced the crap competition with a good one.
Yeah, but with the Sandwich Cup, we never made it very far.
Say that again?
I said with the Sandwich Cup, we never made it very far.
No, but we're still in the group stages. That's what I'm on about.
Off immediately.
And unless Villa's there to not, you know, play the right number of players or whatever it is they do, then
I agree to a point. But you look at some of the teams we were putting out in the Sandwich Cup, like that was a rotation tournament rather than the Champions League, where we're putting out our first 11 pretty much because we've got to. Yeah, so and bad news.
What Cheers just said there as well. It is more demanding. There are some bigger teams and ones that will probably be a little bit harder, perhaps, than Durham.
The Sandwich Cup comes in for us soon, into the quarterfinals. Isn't that the end of December? So we're gonna have 5 games in December.
There is one at the end of December, yeah.
So we've got 5 games in 13 days in December. So if the squad's not tired now, I mean, geez, let's just I don't know.
The only not positive I'm taking from that, it sounds wrong, but is obviously we've got international break. Well, on from the end of this week, I want to say. From what I can gather, there's not actually that many games going on. So I'm taking that as a win. So hopefully, it can almost be a bit of recovery for quite a few of them. That is, I guess, what I'm hoping and praying for in that way.
We need to go old school United under Ferguson and just stop players going away with internationals. Just keep them all back at Carrington for 10 days or so, because those fixtures in December are now massively important, particularly the 2 league games I'm looking at anyway. Right, let's move on to the third goal. Jess, you've not gone first on the goal yet, so talk us through this one, because this one was right on half time. It was in added time at the end of the first half, the Lauren Hemp one.
Oh, I missed this one. If you remember... I went out and got a beer.
I do remember. Oh, I muted myself then. I do remember what happened because Mia Clayton, if you're watching this, arrived to the game that late. She got in at like 40 minutes, went to the bar, came in at half just as this Hemp goal was going in. She walked in, we said hello, and I was like, I'll get back out just as that third one went in. So I do remember it.
She came in to say hi and was like, I'm going to the bar, and we were 2-0 down playing terribly. I was not planning on drinking whatsoever, but I was like, I can't do this. So I had to go get a beer. However, I have just watched it back. So I actually found this goal quite interesting, having just watched it back. So the highlights obviously show the second goal we conceded and then the third goal we conceded. And it's quite funny, really, because if we'd have played like City did for the second goal, as in if we'd have pressed them with the same intensity they pressed us for that third goal, we probably would not have conceded that second goal. Because the third goal basically comes from playing out from the back. We are under so much pressure, which is what we should have done on the other end. But anyway, we're under a ton of pressure, and mistakes made because we're under pressure. And before you know it, Hemp scores a screamer, to be fair, like a really, really good finish. There's no getting away from that. The only thing you can kind of say is, A, we should have been pressing like that. B, we need to be able to beat that press. I think Sandberg just looked knackered Connor, I think you've already said it a couple of times. I do think she just looks absolutely goosed. And Hemp was probably left in too much space. She should have been closed down quicker. But at the end of the day, it was an absolute rocket. But that all actually came from City's pressing. Without that, we would have just played out from the back and it would have been fine. But to be fair to City, that was all from the way they pressed. And I think that was just the difference. On the whole, that was the difference between the two teams. They were so intense with their press, whereas we were just so kind of pedestrian, trying not to rush anything, I don't even know, just not switched on in the slightest. I think on another day, obviously it's kind of Anna's mistake that then leads to the turnover in possession. On another day, I think she does beat the press, or she plays a better ball, because it was a crap ball essentially that she tried to play. She just tried to play it straight into a player. But yeah, that finish from Hemp, like, fair dues, girl. That was real good.
I was going to say, it's certainly a good fit. My issue with this goal is, and I said this earlier on, we were talking about the goals. Again, Zagotti goes to close the shot down and stops like 4 yards away, and almost like, oh, go and try and get it round me. No. Like, if you're going to go and stop the shot, go and stop the shot. Don't just stop 3 or 4 yards off it, because especially a player like Hemp, as we all know, is going to be able to do something like that. I say that, we were lucky in the second half that most of City's shots were like rugby union, like conversion attempts, rather than actually hit them on target. Otherwise, we would have been beaten by more. But this, it frustrates me, because yes, I think, as we said, Samba makes the error, but because we're in an attacking phase, if you will, Riviere, Toon, Zagotti, Hinney, all these players are pushed up because we're on the attack. And that's what happens when you lose possession like that. But this is something we were good at the start of the season. This is what we were doing. As you said, if we'd have flipped the goals around, it's so frustrating to me that I don't quite have the words for it. But that was my key thing for this one. Is Zagotti, if you're going to close the shot down, close it down. Don't run halfway and then just put your hands behind your back, just being like, okay, try and get it round me. You're 25 yards out. Like, it's going to get round you. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. Beth, Barry, on the third one.
Yeah, pretty much what you said there, Connor. It is just like we get to they were getting to a certain point, and then they were like, "No, I can't do it for whatever reason." Like, we don't really know what that reason is. I just can't get there. It just felt again. I know. So sorry, can't speak again. I know I said it was inevitable, but it felt like that, especially as soon as you knew Hemp was starting. It was a bit like, okay, but she's going to score. But it just felt like, I don't want to say, I get what you're saying about us giving up, Connor, but I just don't know what it was. I don't want to say it was giving up. I think maybe some of it was, and I know this probably isn't the right team to say this against in this way, but maybe it was complacency, that where this has worked for us in the past, it just obviously didn't work against City. They have too many world-class players for that kind of play to work. And I just wonder, did we go in with that kind of defensive complacency in a way?
I just want to clarify, I don't think they gave up, by the way. I just think we're at the end of I think this is the limit of the squad we're now seeing.
Yeah,
I think we're at the end of our run, I guess, of
absolutely.
what this squad's capable of.
I don't want to keep going on about it, because I know I've brought up like squad depth and the timing and everything. However, the two other factors to that as well is that Old Trafford's a hard ground to play on. Like, it kills your legs anyway, more than Lee does. And then on top of that, you think there was 1 day for recovery, and then the next day was the training day. And I'm not blaming the weather. I know this sounds insane, but they had to train indoors. So you're not going to be able to train to the level that you can on the outdoor pitches. And I might be wrong in saying this. Maybe that kills your legs a bit more as well. And I just wonder if there just wasn't that recovery time. And I'm not making excuses for them, but I do just wonder if that plays into it, that we literally had 1 day. What was I going to say then? We had 1 day less than like Arsenal and Chelsea, and City obviously had the whole week. Yeah,
I was just about to say that you're going to get clipped up like Ty back on AFTV back in the day.
Look, I'm not saying it's because of the rain or it's because of the wind, but what I'm just look, I have had this said, but you can see where I'm coming from. That in the way that if they're having to train indoors, they're not going to be able to put the intensity in that they can outdoors. And I just wonder if that played into it as well. And maybe there was still kind of like lactic built up or something. And because it just felt like they were going, oh, no, done, can't go. And to me, that's either, I don't want to say you can't be bothered, but maybe it is, or you just haven't got it in you. And I think it is just that knock-on effect of every game and how many of our players have played every game for us and for country.
I'm just going to point out that May Letizia has played how many games on the trot now, is it? 120, and she's been absolutely outstanding for the last 118. So, you know, I don't know that I can sit there. I will never buy into it. At the end of the day, you're professional footballers, and your job is to go and do this. It is your job. You know, you're in a privileged position. Perhaps they need to get their fitness up. If it's that bad, then that's what they need to do. Because, you know, yes, playing Wednesday, Sunday or Wednesday, Saturday isn't the easiest thing to always have to do in terms of the training. But you can get your recovery days in. You know, you absolutely can. You know, it just means you get less time on the field, perhaps to do your training and your tactics, but you can do the rest of it around the outside. So you don't need to necessarily be doing that. I just watched this goal and thought to myself, oh, where did I see this goal before? And I went, oh, yeah, against Aston Villa. Same bloody thing. Try and take the ball out, lose the ball. Oh, what's going to happen now? Give it to the person who's out there all on their own on the right-hand side. Oh, long shot. Oh, goal. And you're just like, what is going on here? Was it annoying? Yes. Lauren Hemp did incredibly well. Don't know where Jade was. She was gone. She was probably at the pub at that point. That's where I'd have gone, to be honest. There was no point hanging about on the pitch, was there? So that was kind of game over there. I know why, Prof. That's why I said she played 120 games on the trot and she's been good for the last 118 because there was 2 where she hasn't necessarily been tip-top. And then I agree with you, Connor, from that one. When you start watching our old Orange and Passion Fruit, who, God bless her, she runs, she zooms, and goes straight past her. And then it's like, she was like the road runner, because she gets halfway past and then goes, and turns around. And then everybody is doing this thing now, obviously, where they don't want to give away a handball. So they're putting their hands behind the back. At which point, she then shuffles towards her like she's on Strictly Come Dancing. And then comes the long shot. And I'm with you. Like, you've got to close people down. You cannot consistently let people shoot. And if you're going to let people do that with minimal obstacles between the goal and themselves, you're going to put yourself into problems. And that's exactly what happened. Saf had no chance of getting that one. It was a really good finish. But again, just a sucker punch. And to go in at half-time 3-0 down was disgraceful, really. It never should have ever got to that point. And again, I would say that all of those goals just incredibly avoidable. So just frustrating.
I do just wonder, though, if it goes back to, like, how I was saying there, that is it complacency as well? So we're not saying necessarily they're saying, oh, we're tired or we can't be bothered to get there. I just wonder if there's complacency in it as well, in the fact that we think, I don't want to make it as easy as that, but that, oh, someone else is going to be able, like, there's someone behind me or there's someone going to be able to get it, and maybe it's a communication complacency kind of thing. I just wonder if that plays into it a little bit as well.
Yeah, potentially. I think it's. This is the only credit I'm going to give to, but they are they're top of the league for a reason, you know. So that I know that we're obviously looking at it from a United point of view, and there's definitely errors in our play. But City are a good team, and also they're not in Europe, so they have a week's rest most weeks where we don't. From that point of view, because I know Barry mentioned that the League Cup, but the group phase is only 3 games, whereas we've got 6. 6 in the Champions League. So they're having a week's rest. And I said this to someone after the game that I think we're noticing this in the WSL over the last 3 or 4 seasons. The team that is not in Europe usually has a bounce in the league. We've profited from it over the last couple of seasons where we weren't in Europe. They went on to win the league, did all those kind of things. City, when they've dropped out of it, they then go on a run in the league. I think whichever team it seems doesn't go into Europe has a very good league season from that point of view. Which, again, I never thought I'd be saying this, I think gives Chelsea a bit of credit for last season, how they managed to go domestic treble and unbeaten in the league while also in the Champions League as well. I think it just makes it a little bit more impressive from that point of view. Right, I'm conscious we're already 50 minutes in. I don't want to do this for much longer, talking about this particular game, but talk about the second half changes and everything else. Obviously, Mallard came on and she's on the poll, someone who came on at half time. I'm kind of going to lump all this together in terms of the second half, the changes we made and what we would have done differently, if anything, because, as I said, we didn't have a single shot on target in the whole game. So although we were better in the second half, from an attacking point of view, still didn't do anything. I think Jess Park hit the post, but that was never going in from the angle that she was at. It kind of like just hit the post from the tight angle. But what did we make of the second half? And do we agree with the changes that were made? So from memory, I'm trying to remember who came on there. So Mallard obviously came on at half-time for Turland. Blundell and Rolfo came on, I'm going to say, for Jade and for Golson.
Yeah.
And then Awujo came on for Toon later in the game. Yeah. And then Williams came on at some point. I can't remember who for.
Jess Park.
Oh, there we go.
Was naturally 3-0 down.
Who
else to take off?
Well, there's a player on the bench that I know Sean's going to want me to mention, and I'm going to because I actually wrote about it as well. And that's Meredith Griffiths. Again, see her on the bench. Doesn't come onto the pitch. Now, people are going to think I've just got some kind of agenda to get her on. But I don't think I'm going to be alone in this one. That in a game where you're 3-0 down, you need energy, and you've got one of your youngsters on the bench. She's not going to play. The simple fact is she is not going to come off the bench. If you can't bring her on in a game like that, she's never coming on. And there's clearly something else that we're not seeing that I don't know. But that one annoyed me because there's no point. You're 3-0 down. The game's gone. You may as well look ahead to Wolfsburg at that point. You need some energy. Why not? Bring her in.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I was saying exactly the same thing that, you know, she likes to score goals as well. So I know at that point you're saying, you know, like the game's over, you know, no matter what, we couldn't really come back from 3-0. But even the confidence to have even been able to get one goal would have brought a bit of trajectory in that way. And I just don't understand why we didn't. I understand, obviously, it is a derby and it would have been a massive game to bring her into. But like you said, Connor, she's not going to play in Wolfsburg and it would have saved those legs for a little bit as well. And she's just not getting the game time, but she plays brilliantly and she can just run with the ball and has the speed that we need on the pitch. And we're missing it quite a lot at the minute. And I just don't understand why she isn't making it through, because I just think she would be I think hopefully nothing happens and we get to keep her, but like I just think she could become quite integral for the team if she's going to carry on playing that way. But we're not going to see that if this is all that's going to keep happening.
And I see the question that Gareth is asking: is it fair to bring her on in a game like that? What difference is it going to make? She's played for Wales already against Australia, obviously scored in that one. She's already come off the bench for us. Yes, I know that, you know, it's a tough environment to come into, but I always say this, fans are going to give youngsters a bit of extra credit. She could make a handful of errors in that game. She's not going to get it off the fans because fans always give academy products more leeway than what you would give players that are more established in the game from that point of view, or they should do anyway. Most people do. Saf gets it a lot, but I think that's more of a goalkeeper thing than an outfielder, to be honest. Because if you make an error in goal, it's going in. Whereas if you make an error outfield, for the most part, it doesn't, does it? So I think Saf gets more of the brunt of it because she's a keeper. And if you make an error as a keeper, it's more obvious. So I don't know. It just baffles me. I understand, and I get it. Like Skinner's talking about investment and needing players in January. 100% agree with him. Absolutely, we do. Like the squad's been less short. But then I don't buy the argument when he's talking about this lack of, you know, players that he's got, and you've got players in the short term that could help, and that's my issue. But I do agree with the change at halftime. I thought Mallard was the right change.
I think I can group together my entire thoughts on the second half in, I think, 4 very quick and simple points. So the first one is you will never win a game without a shot on target. Simple as that. I can never read about Kira Barry and not just see myself there. I'm like, oh, I've got the physicality. It's very nice of you to say so, but I'm not on loan, still here. You've got to have shots on target, and I'm tired of saying it now. Like, it was the same problem against Villa. We didn't get a shot on target till 65, 66 minutes in, which is just ridiculous. And then in the game against City, exactly the same thing. You know, we're not doing the things that we were so successful at when we were attacking earlier on in the season. And that's things like, I didn't see Jess Park getting the chance to run at people. I didn't see her getting the chance to do the things that she would usually do. I was on a podcast with one of the guys from Shades of Blue, and he was talking about how, you know, defensively, they're not brilliant. They do have their moments. They do have the ability to allow goals. And he was especially worried about the left-hand side for them. You know, and that's brilliant, because that's where Jess Park is. I spend all that time talking about how, you know, we're delighted that you've given her to her. Thank you very much. You know, we've had your pants down there. And she didn't get the chance to do anything because the ball just wasn't getting up there towards them. Elizabeth Turland isn't doing much because she's not seeing the ball either. And it's not good enough when you're up that end and you're just not getting any shots away. And that then comes down to, again, is it us changing the way that we play because of the fact we changed personnel? Galton's in now, so that's a slightly different way of playing. I'm going to say it now. You want to talk to me about tired players? Ella Toon is looking incredibly tired to me at the moment. And she is a player who I've got the utmost respect for, but she looked angry at the weekend. She didn't seem herself. When she gets like that and she's getting picky at people, she's never at her best like that. And I never see her perform as well as she could do there. But to be fair, the whole front line didn't really do what we wanted them to do. So that was annoying. Number 2 with the subs as well. If everybody's sitting here and telling me they're all really tired, then you need to be bringing on fresh legs. And Mark Skinner's been doing that generally in games. I can't fully agree with everything that he's done there. I agree bringing Mallard on was probably a good decision. I'm still not sure I would have taken Turland off. I'm with you. I would have put Mallard out there on the left and kept Turland up there for now, because we know that she is still one of our better options for goal scoring. I can understand why we brought Jade off, because, again, you need to rotate the players, and she is literally our only right back. And I don't think that Hannah did that poorly at all. I think if you're then going to bring on Frito for Leah, it makes just as much sense that you brought Mallard on initially to see if you could get something going there. And that's why I was a little bit frustrated about that. I will never understand taking off Jess Park for Rachel Williams. Somebody actually put on here, but Rachel Williams is on. No, she's not. I love Rachel Williams to death, but at the moment,
I think that was sarcastic. Looking at who it was from, really, I think that was sarcastic.
So. Like, genuinely, at the moment, she's just charging about. She's like a rhino, and she's just off she goes, chasing after the ball and hoping that people will get out of her way because they don't want to get knocked over by her. I love her, but this was not the game to bring on Rachel Williams. This was absolutely the game to bring in Mary Griffiths. Absolutely the game to give her a chance. And we don't. And it's bordering now on ridiculous. Like, the game is gone. The game is gone. You're 3-0 down. How much worse can it get by bringing on somebody up front who might do something different? And this absolute steadfast belief that bringing on a young player seems to be a bad thing this season is what's annoying me about Mark Skinner. It's like it's almost like every season he goes, I can't have them all love me completely. There's got to be something. I haven't heard him say too much in a press conference that's made me angry this year. It's like, I'll tidy that up. I'll rotate. I'll sub a little bit earlier as well. But I am not playing the youngsters. I agree with you, Neil. None of them had a good game. That's why we couldn't pick somebody who could be in the player of the match poll. But I will argue that Jess Park on her worst day is better than Rachel Williams on her best at the moment, because literally she's like, I'll say she's not a rhino really. That's probably the wrong thing to say. She's more like a bowling ball. and she's just going straight at them, and she's hoping she's going to knock everybody down. It's like, no, not having it. And the last thing I would have said about the second half, and indeed the whole game, was Jamie Carragher got in a lot of trouble for the amount of spitting he did out of a window. Why the hell did we need to keep watching that Manchester City manager getting a little glob of spit on his tongue and then hocking it out of his mouth? It was one of the most disgusting things I've ever watched. And frankly, the geezer needs to get a grip of himself. If he's producing that much saliva, mate needs to go and see the GP, because that was abominable.
I'm glad I didn't watch on TV now. We were a good few hundred yards away.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've just watched all the highlights. Like, I watched all the goals back, and that does not make the highlights.
Thank God. But yeah, I agree. And on the Skinner point as well, this is what's frustrating, because I still stand by that this season we've been better. I think tactically better. I think the substitutes have been better. Up until about a week ago, his answers in the media were better. And like you said, it's just another question mark, because his answer for doing, he got asked about it a couple of weeks ago. And his answer doesn't make sense about that. He knows when they're ready, and he doesn't want to put them in too early and everything. That, like, we know, because you won't know whether they're good at. Well, you're never gonna know when they're good enough if you don't play them. Give them a chance, find out if they're good enough, and if they're not, then fine.
This is what you used to say when he'd sign people. Oh, they've got to have 753 games so they can get used to how we're playing. Shut the up, man. What are you on? Get a grip of your life. She's a footballer. Put her on the pitch. Let her show you. She's played before. She scored against Wolves, you absolute wet wipe. Get a grip of your life. Twice. She scored twice. Muppet.
Sorry, cut me off guard then. It's not just that. It's why, and I know you kind of said it, Barry, but why are we playing Williams over her anyway? Because Williams is never going to be a player who's going to come back into form to play 60 minutes or 90 minutes. Players like Griffiths are going to be those players that you want to get to that development as well. And by allowing these players are only able to play for, I'm going to say 30 minutes tops, it's just not allowing that development of the newer ones coming through, which if you want your team to be doing better in, let's say, 2 or 3 years, those are the players that you're going to then be wanting to be able to play depend on. And I just don't understand that level of it either.
Lastly, you watch the highlights. There's not a single Manchester United effort. It's literally just, let's watch the three. One highlight lasts 40 seconds, just watching us clear the ball for the corner before the corner that scores the goal.
And that's the highlights were bland. In the second half, you see Jess Park have a shot that's completely at the wrong angle and isn't even close. The second half highlights are non-existent, basically. It's just City having a few more opportunities.
Yeah, I think... I don't know what else to say on it, but it's frustrating, because I worry that we're undoing all of that positive and the good work that we had at the start of the season, where it's like, we got the point, against Chelsea, which I know some fans, say we should have won that. Maybe, we could have gone on to win that, but, still a good point. We competed with them. We had a good start. We qualified for the Champions League, got the 2 first wins early on against Madrid and Valerenga. And just since Villa, obviously we lose to Villa, now we lost to City. It's like these, obviously we're coming to Wolfsburg in a second, but I don't think we're winning that. Which makes West Ham and Spurs in December now massive. If we don't win those, we've undone every bit of positivity and good progress we've made this season in a couple of games.
Well, can I throw across a little bit of positivity? That as much as we're all sitting here going, absolutely, we're still third. I'm
amazed by that, by the way.
Third. Let's just take a moment to take this and let it go. We are still third. Nobody's got games in hand and can take it away from us. By rights and by actual points at this point of the season, we are still third and still in the Champions League places. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but thank you, Liverpool, and thank you, Spurs, because those people have just absolutely pulled us out of it. And by the way, this is not a sentence I ever thought I'd read, ever in my life. It's tickled me. It's tickled me. I'm not going to lie.
That is quite a good comment, to be fair. I'm convinced. I've kind of convinced myself in some like delusional state that we're not going to finish in the top 3, but we're going to win the Champions League and qualify for it that way. That's kind of the target for the season. Why not? Let's just do it that way around. I don't know. Right, I'll come to player of the match, and then we'll kind of talk a little bit about Wolfsburg. Well, I said a little bit. There's not too much to talk about that. Jess, I'll start with you. Can you make a case for anyone for your player of the match? Who would you have gone for?
No.
Great answer.
Me for watching. I kept saying Zagotti, but I have no reasoning for that. And after watching the highlights, I don't think her anymore. And it's not like when I say that I said Zagotti, it's not like I was like, oh my God, Zagotti played amazing. It was just like, I think I must have seen her do a couple of okay things in like a 5-10 minute period when we were discussing at the game who we should put on the list. I'm going to say Mallard. Don't ask me my reasoning because I don't really have any. I thought she did okay. I think she could do with like thinking a little bit more. That final decision making is just always a split second, or well, actually no, like a full second or two too slow. But yeah, no one else. Not even really Mallard, to be honest. But I've got to pick someone, haven't I?
Yeah, I think. I was going to say none of us left early. There were a few in the way in, but we certainly didn't. But yeah, I don't know. I've lost it for this show. I'm really not got the energy for this. Beth, Barry, what about you? Who would you have gone for?
Yeah, Mallard. Like we've said, she seemed to be the only player that came on with a bit of almost passion in that way, I guess. And especially in a derby, that's what you want. So I guess in this game, that's enough. Not enough for me, but if we're having to choose a player for the match, that's what I would say.
First time in the history of my life, I refuse to play your ridiculous games. I won't pick one. I cannot bring it within me. Like this would literally be a participation award. So no, not picking anybody.
I do actually have a new pick. I just remembered Hannah Blundell is on there. I might pick her purely because she has birthed an entire human being. Nothing to do with her football.
You're in the match. I'm not having it. What is wrong? We had Charlie going, I'll pick this one because she had a good match last week. And now we've got you going, oh, well, she gave birth once.
Well, I just think...
What next?
That's
impressive.
impressive.
On November the 12th.
I mean, it was quite a while ago. I know it's been a while since she gave birth, but I just think, like, imagine growing a whole human, giving birth to it, and then going back to play professional football. That's pretty sick. But in terms of footballing, no. But child birthing, yes.
I'd take that. She did all right, actually, to be fair. I actually thought she did quite well when she came on. I say quite well. She did good when she came on. Oh, hey up. Eden Siobhan, you're one of the few fans that I know that have flown out for that. So I hope you enjoy the game on Wednesday. I don't know how many United have sold, but I know like 3 people that have gone. You're one of them. So I hope you have a good time out there. And enjoy
Last
Wednesday.
I did on that game, that headbutt, by the way, right at the very end, Simi was actually growing a second head, which I've never. But then so was the person she headbutted. I've never seen that before in my life. I reckon Eubank and Ben didn't look as bad as that after 12 rounds. That was horrific. So how was it that Simi had to stay off? Fair play to Sky Sports. They were giving it like she was substituted for unknown at 9 just because nobody came on Sky Sports, you absolute pilchards. But how was the other one allowed to go back on? It makes no sense. She only had a little bump, but still mad. That was mental.
Exactly. As far as I'm aware, she didn't have a concussion on the day. Obviously, we know with Jess Park got it a couple of days later. So whether Simi would have that, I genuinely don't know. But she didn't have it on the day. So we'll wait and see from that point of view what happens. But yeah, in terms of the player of the match poll, Mallard did win it with 41, Riviere 34, Zagotti 17, Blundell 8. So yeah, it was always going to be a tough one this week. So here we go. Who knows? But yeah, let's quickly chat about Wolfsburg. And to be fair, I'm just going to ask the same questions I asked last time in terms of what changes you'd make and what the score prediction or what your score prediction is. Obviously, this is the last game before the break. It's some pages have said United have confirmed tullis-joyce is out. They haven't. Charlotte has, and Charlotte's info is correct, by the way. I'm not discrediting Charlotte, but when people are saying Man United have confirmed, no, they haven't. They haven't said anything on it yet. But she is out. So there'll be no tullis-joyce for this one. So we know that it's going to be Saf or Kayla. I would imagine it's going to be Saf again. But what other changes would people make from the game on Saturday going into this one? And then we'll come around to score prediction after that one.
I'd bring Gabby back in. I think that's one we could definitely say about.
At centre back or left back?
I want to say centre back, to be honest. Yeah, I'm really trying to think about this now. Yeah, I would say that. I would also. It's difficult, isn't it? Because you would have said, "Oh, bring Simi in for Toon," but we don't know if Simi's even going to be able to play now. So, yeah, it's a difficult one, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
I'd have said get it as close to like the PSG lineup as possible, to be fair. Whether, I guess, like Beth said, maybe that's not with Awujo now, but ideally I'd bring her back in for Toon probably. And yeah, I'd try and revert back to that PSG lineup, because if we can essentially do the exact same that we did during the week, then I think we'll be absolutely fine. So we just need to recreate that again, basically, which is easier said than done, of course.
I would give Toonie a rest. I would take Leah off. I would play Frido and Melvin either side of Her Majesty. I would put Jess Park in the 10. I have no objections bringing Gabby George on, but it would be for Anna Sandberg, not for Dominique. And then watch us get the points. Listen, we're through. Whatever happens now, I can't see 6 other teams not, knocking us out of it. So, as far as I'm concerned, do that. But
we'll know by Wednesday whether we're through, like, officially or not, because some of those teams play each other anyway. Down near the bottom, the ones that are below the drop zone, like below 12th at the moment. So, yeah, we'll know by Wednesday kind of night-ish if we're all, like, actually through. But we are pretty much. I think we only need about another point, really, to see us through. So, yeah, hopefully we get it in this one. I'm not massively confident. In terms of changes, I think Malar's got to start, and I think Rolfo probably should start, which then leaves the question of Turner. I would probably drop Turner, I've got to be honest. I've not... People know on this channel, I was almost like begging for Turner to come to United, and I still am one of her biggest fans, but she's just not impressed me at all. This last month or so, I don't know what's up with her, or whether it's just this system doesn't suit her anymore. Someone actually tweeted me the other week into is there a correlation, the fact that since Bizet's not been in the team, Turner doesn't look like anywhere near the player that she has been. I think there's something in that, because Bizet was very good at putting the crosses into the box, and Jade was overlapping a lot, whereas now Jess Park drifts inside a lot. She wants the ball to feet a lot. It's kind of like, so it's taken that away from Turner's play a little bit. So whether it's that, so I would probably go Frido, Mel, and Park. And then I agree, if Simi's available, I would be taking Toon out, putting Simi in there with, I'd be half tempted to give Hinny a rest as well and put Lisa and Zigotti together, to be honest. He won't, but maybe those two. And then the backline's the backline. We don't have anyone else doing, so I think it probably stays as it is, with maybe Gabby coming in at centre back, which I wouldn't be against. I actually thought she was pretty good against PSG, so I wouldn't be against that either. And this is probably a different kind of show topic. I was talking to someone about this earlier. I think elite forwards, if they're not getting into the game, make sure they get into the game, if that makes sense. So I agree that she's not getting the service anymore, but I think we're playing differently, which means she's not going to get that service. So she's got to change how she's playing to then fit the style that we're playing.
She was getting the goals in Europe.
She was.
It wasn't giving her the ball then. So what we were doing in Europe, that we
Bizet was playing those games. Those qualifiers she scored in, Bizet was starting. And
there's the answer to your question. Thank you very much, Connor. Glad you were here.
So this is what I mean. It's like, there might be something, I don't know, but I just, at the moment, we play the ball a lot on the floor and then play it long into the channels. That's not Turner's game at all. So it's a tough one. Although I want to see her and Mel play together again because, like I said, those two were doing well at the start of the season as well. It's one of those. I want to see her get better again because there is certainly a top level forward in there. We're just not seeing it for the last month or so. Right, what's everyone's score predictions? Augsburg are a tough side. This is probably our toughest test yet in the Champions League. So it's not going to be easy. Certainly not off the back of a City defeat. What's everyone saying score-wise?
7-0 Man United.
I love the optimism there.
Just trying to cheer myself up. I can hear the microphone calling me again.
I think it's going to be like a 1-1 or a 2-1 loss.
Yeah, I was going to say 1-1. I think that's where I'm at right now.
I think we will win. I really do.
Everyone's saying 1-1 in the chat here. This is the most draws. Whatever. You reckon we'll win comfortably, Barry, or by 1?
I think it depends. I mean, again, I don't think it's going to be a massive drama. I can see people going, "Oh, don't play Patel." I can't get behind these people. And part of me wants Rendell to play, and then when she concedes 4, we can all sit there and have a pop at her, and then we'll have no young goalkeepers any confidence. That'd be a great idea. I would just get behind Saf quite literally, and I think she will do incredibly well. She did well against PSG. Listen, we've conceded goals, but I think she's been all right in them. I don't think it's going to be massive mistakes that have been made there. I think we could. It depends. If we get shots on target, Connor, yeah, comfortably 3-1. If we're scrabbling around trying to get the ball somewhere within those white lines that we like to call the bar and the post, then no, we're going to struggle and we might just get past it. But we're talking about Alexandra Pop. She's their version of Rachel Williams, so I'm not fussed about her either. Everybody kept telling me how good she was. She's an absolute pony every time I've watched her. So I'm not worried about Pop. She can pop off to the shops. No dramas. No. Wolfsburg don't particularly worry me. I don't think they're the greatest team in the world. 3-1. 3-1 Man United.
They're a bit of an unknown, Wolfsburg, because they're going through a transition themselves. They made about 20 signings in the summer window. That's an exaggeration. They didn't literally, but they made a lot of signings. They're a bit of an unknown. Someone just said about them, they didn't play well against Lyon. Does anyone play well against Lyon? Let's be real. John just said there about Wolfsburg. Lyon are a very, very good side anyway. So, I don't know many
they're not
teams.
Doing great in their own league, are they? I mean, you're the Bayern Munich fan over there. They're not smashing it. They're in a very similar position to where PSG were.
They're 6 behind Bayern in the league, so
yeah,
they concede a lot of it. They score a lot. I think they're one of the top scorers in the league. Let me just double check this. So they've only actually scored 1 less than Bayern, 34 goals in 10 games, but they've conceded 16. So they concede a lot, but they also score. So that's what I mean. They're a bit of an unknown, but I do stand by this our toughest test, certainly away from home. But we'll wait and see. Threat on corners, great. That height is not going to be. Yeah, I was going to say I was going to score a hat trick of edits now. Can you imagine? I don't know. Yeah, that's what I mean. They're scoring a lot, but they do concede, so we can get at them, and that's what we need to focus on. Is hopefully getting on. I will take a draw 100%. Get into the break, 10 points in the Champions League, still in the top 3 in the league. I think that will still be classed as a pretty decent start to the season, despite the last couple of WSL results. So we'll wait and see. Right, we'll look to wrap it up there. This is the last show before the Football Content Awards, so I will just thank everyone again who put us in there in the first place. Anyone who voted for us and everything like that. So that is on Thursday. So usually our match reaction would be Thursday. It's now going to be Friday because myself, Jess, who's currently on screen, other Jesse you don't see, and Andrew, who's in the chat, I hope, will be representing All for United on Thursday night as we travel to Ellen Road for the awards. This one. So yeah, just a thanks from me to everyone who voted for us, put us in there in the first place by nominating us and all the rest of it. And hopefully we can bring back another one of those, which is above my head. Well, hopefully it's silver or gold this year, but if not, I would take another one of those. If not, but we shall wait and see. whatever happens, I'm just glad that we're gonna have another good night there. We've done Anfield, we've done the Spurs Stadium, now it's Ellen Road, so been quite a journey. The content of all. So the match reaction for Wolfsburg will be on Friday when we talk about that game. We'll round it off there. So make sure you're following all of our socials, All For United WFC on everything. Thanks for all your comments. I know this has been a slightly negative show, but it's always going to be, you lose a derby 3-0 and don't have a single shot on target. I don't know what you expect if you come in here expecting us to be all like, yeah, what a great game. It's not going to be that. We try and be positive where we can, but we've got to be honest at the end of the day.
We're still third.
There we go. So there is some optimism. And when we go and beat Wolfsburg, hopefully on Wednesday night, Wednesday afternoon over here, isn't it? Because it's like 5 o'clock kickoff or whatever. It's 5:45. We're the early one on Wednesday. We'll wait and see. But make sure you're liking this video and subscribing if you haven't already. Have a good week all. And we shall see you guys later in the week.